This problem asks us to find all of the real solutions of 3x cubed minus x squared minus 15x plus 5. Okay, let's start by writing down the problem again. 3x cubed minus x squared minus 15x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, first thing I notice is I have a 3 and a 1, and then I have this 15 and 5, which is also a 3 and a 1 if we factor out a 5. So the approach I'm going to take on this problem, I think, is going to be the factoring by grouping. Okay, so to factor by grouping, in the first two elements, it looks like there's an x squared common, so I'll factor that out, which would leave me with 3x minus 1. Then, in the second part, I can see that there's a 15 and a 5, so I'll pull out a 3, and of course when I pull out that 3, whoops, sorry, not a 3, my mistake, I'm going to pull out a 5, and when I pull out that 5, I will be left with 3x minus 1, and then there's the equal 0 in the end. So notice in particular here, be careful when you pull out the 5, because it's a minus sign here, that means I'm also going to need to make this a minus 1, because I'm pulling out a 5, but this quantity here is going to distribute in to make it positive at the end. Okay, so now what do you notice? Do you notice how this 3x minus 1 and this 3x minus 1 are now common? So I can now pull out the 3x minus 1. Let me put that one in red since I boxed it in red anyway here. There's a common 3x minus 1, and what would be left over? What's left in the blue if I had pulled out that 3x minus 1? Well, that would be an x squared minus 5. So now we have the equation that's beginning to be factored here as x squared minus 5 times 3x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, so in the red hand, 3x minus 1, when does 3x minus 1 equal 0? Well, this happens when you add 1 and when you divide by 3. So one of the solutions is definitely x is 1/3. On the other side, in the blue, we have x squared minus 5, and when does that equal 0? So some of the many options here would be maybe completing the square or quadratic formula, or maybe even you could factor this if you were willing to use radicals. But because of the way it's written, I think I'm just going to go x squared equals positive 5 by adding 5 to both sides, and then by the square root property, we would say that x equals plus or minus square root of 5. So those would be the two solutions over here. So notice altogether there are how many solutions in the real numbers to this problem? There are 3 of them. 1/3, positive radical 5, and negative radical 5. And this is consistent with the fact that it's a third-degree polynomial. Right? So third-degree polynomial would have at most 3 real solutions, and this one did in fact have exactly 3 real solutions.